Hello and welcome to part one of Saskatchewan River, and part one is block in. So with this 30-minute taping, we went step by step, covered the whole canvas with paint, and tried to get the values the best we could. I had a little time near the end where I had left over, and so I started defining my values a little bit better with the middle mountains, getting them good and dark. All right, so getting your values balanced is what we're going to do in part two. And today what we wanted to do was just try to get our shapes in the right place and take a shot at values. Okay, so with that, what else can I say? Get outside and paint. Plein air painting is very important. Paint with your friends, get critiques on your work, paint from life even in wintertime. I do that here with doing portrait here, and I really think it's some of the best stuff you can do is paint from life. All right. So if you want to get good, paint from life as best you can. But here I provide you step-by-step instructions on how to address these landscape paintings. So it'll make you better prepared. So when you do go outside, you're going to really nail it. All right. Enough said. Let's go to today's painting. All right. Bye-bye. Welcome to part one of Saskatchewan River. This is up in the Canadian parks. And so what we're going to start with today is a basic palette, which is blue, red, yellow. I have a warm mixer that's Naples yellow, a cold gray. I have burnt sienna and viridian, along with my titanium white in the lower right. Got a big wide brush, looks like a 10, a couple flats here, then looks like a 6, a 4, and a little 2. So I'm going to start with the 2 to do a little bit of drawing to figure out where my shapes are going to be. All right, nice clean glass, look at that, nice clean palette, not dirty like I normally have here. So we will get started with a mixture. I'm going to start with a drawing mixture of blue, a little bit of burnt sienna, some white, a little bit more burnt, kind of makes a gray. You don't need a real dark color or heavy. I'm going to put this in light, so I'm going to get some terp in it because I might be erasing it. So I'm going to put it in thin. And when I measure the reference, it looks like the top of the river is a third, and then the mountains are a little less than a third, and the sky's taking up a little bit more space. So I'm going to draw a foundation line at the top of the river. I know it looks like a lake. Here in Colorado, we just don't have rivers this big. And when you see some of these Canadian rivers, you go, now that is a river. So I'm going to say that this is kind of a third down in this area here. I don't know which line I'm going to choose, but I put a couple just in case. And above that is going to be mountains. And above this is going to be clouds in here. So all right, then I have these darker hills in front. That's what these are in here. So I have these 2 dark hills. Don't want to make them too identical, so I'll make this one over on the left bigger because that's what I see in the reference. And I'll make this one a little lower. So these are my darker guys here. And then I'm going to have my mountain somewhere in here. And you can go nuts trying to get every detail in here, so just try to make a peak over here that's bigger than the rest. right in here. So this will be the main objective. It's going to be pretty. All right, so now we're left with the challenge of trying to figure out where these islands are. And of course we have a lower island. Let me bring this above my lip on the bottom here. There's a lot going on here. These are big canvases. I don't know if I'm going to finish this thing in 3 sessions. Anyway, so that one is there. Then we have another one that is, I think we can bring this down here. And then we kind of steps back here. This river, then we have islands up in here. And the bottom of the islands are very flat because as things go back, they get very flat. And then we have some water behind, and then more islands or banks jetting out from the side. And then this one comes around here. All right, let's get back to this one, and I think we need, comes up pretty high. And we'll let it go back down now. All right, I think basically that's our shapes. And let's work on some values now. So let's add a little bit more blue and gray. Blue, gray. And again, I want to put these colors in thin. So I added a little terp to it. Boy, I sure didn't make much product. So I'm going to go more blue, more gray. And then this one is going to come in the same way. Yeah, I know that's the wrong color. And it's the wrong value, but it's our first attempt. And then there's an island here, so I'm going to put it in a dark one with the same dark mixture. And I'll do so with these banks over here too. I'll add a little bit more gray to this mixture and put in this area right in here. What this is doing to me is training my eye to say, okay, where are these shapes and are they in the right place? And that's the first thing, is getting my shapes in the right place. And I think I've got a mistake already, so I'm going to dip my paper towel here and make this a little lower in this area. I'm sorry for my head being in the way. So I'm lowering this here. Good, okay. That one's done. All right, now as things go back, they get lighter, so let's just work on a value study right now. So let's go blue, ultra blue, gray, and some titanium white. Whatever you do on this next step is that this mixture, when we work up here, has to be lighter than this. So there we go. I dipped my brush into the terp to just thin it down. I think the most exciting trip my wife and I took up there was years ago. I had a little Toyota truck with 4 cylinders, and it would go forever on a tank of gas. Thank goodness, because gas up there is a lot more expensive than down here. And we went through the Canadian Rockies for the first time. and then went clear up to Alaska. And then we took the ferry back to Washington. And took this ferry's kind of like a inner island bus. It's fantastic. You can drive your car on there and rent a room or sleep on the deck. We rented a room, a little cabin. All right, so now we have clouds. So let's get something different for the clouds, and let's squirt out just a little bit of cobalt blue. Looks like I'm using some Winton student grade cobalt blue hue. And we're going to throw in just a touch of red, which would be alizarin, and a lot of white. And we'll come up with some sort of cloud design here. Now in this stage, I'm not using my best brushes because, as you can see, I'm kind of rough on brushes. I'm going to get a little bit more red in there. Oh, that was too much. Calm that down with some white titanium. And I'm going to tone it down even more. All right, so I'm going to add some shapes, just some horizontal lines. And this would emulate more of the darker clouds that we have, and we'll add the white a little bit later. I think I need a little even lighter than that. And we'll do that over in here. Again, just to remind you to keep it thin, stay away from your details. Go back to a little bit darker. Here's to your darker stuff. It's up in here. And here. And as we go back, it gets right into the mountains. So you need a lighter value to delineate between the clouds and the mountains. And I think I've done that. Now we need some sky, and let me see what I can do about saving some of this if I have enough. A little bit, yeah, I do. And we're going to get some blue sky up there. So, and while I'm scraping my palette here, you can get your ceruleum out. So I have just a little bit of manganese left, and that makes for a nice sky color. It's basically a ceruleum. This particular brand I'm using is from Gamblin. And it's about gone. It's been well loved and used in many paintings. I'm going to switch over to my filbert, which is a number 4 filbert. Get some of my manganese. As you can see, add some white to it. It's very pretty. And I see some sky over in here. And I see some in here. And I see some coming over here too. All right, so that is the ceruleum, or manganese if you have it. All right, let's see what we got in the way. What's left of my white is contaminated. So it has a little gray in it. And I'm going to use that and see if I can stretch it to finish off my sky. So I'm cleaning up my number 4 filbert, and I'm drying it quite well in the paper towel, squeezing it out of there. All right. And here I go with my white. It's got just a little bit of contamination in it. And I've got paint all over me already. Jeez. I don't know how this happens. And I'm just filling in my white as best as I can, because we've got to do a lot of work on this sky later. And as you can see, look, I'm really loading up the side of my brush. I'm squeezing it in these areas that don't have any color on it. And let me get back and see how the design's working. I could probably use some grays over in here a little bit more. So I went back to my pile that I had a little bit left in, and I'm putting that in a light manner over on the right, upper right side. Okay, let's clean this palette. We need to get down in the water. So I need some more white. What a surprise. We go through white a lot, particularly during block-in. So I'm using a Gamblin student grade titanium. And it works just fine for me. So, I was taught to stay with your student grades until you figured out what you were doing, so you don't go wasting a lot of money on expensive paints till you can really appreciate them and know how to use them. I hope I'm at that stage. Okay, let's talk about these rivers up here in Canada. They're full of glacier water, and glacier water has a little bit of green-gray to it. Look at this, I am covered in white again. Excuse me. Let me clean my gloves up. I have no idea where this is coming from. Let me clean my brushes, handles. Jeez. All right, let's get just a touch of, too much of Viridian and some gray. And really lighten that up. So it's kind of a light gray and a little green in it. And I think I've about got it. I need a bigger brush. All right, I'm working on 11 by 22. And I think my students here are working on long ones too. I think Ann's on a 15 by 30 and Jan's on a, what did you say, a 10 by 20, I think. Okay, here we go with the well, this is getting the job done. All right, that is taking care of that. And we have this canvas, this 11 by 22, covered in paint. Now, basically what I wanted to do was make the mountains go back and get some values in to start making some judgments as I go forward with values. And let's start, since we have a little bit more time, to getting into correcting these values and getting them in the right place. So let me load these things over to another place, clean my palette, and guess what? I need more white. And I've squeezed it out. Alrighty. I'm going to now start on my darkest dark, which should be up in this kind of lower middle area, the background mountains, which are in shadow, and I think that's why they're darker. Where the mountains should be lighter because they are in sunlight. Okay, so let's work on this value for these darker fellas. So let's go with blue and burnt sienna. Let's throw in a little bit of viridian. Back to burnt sienna. Oh, too much. Back to blue. Let's add just a little bit of white to it and see what happens. Got too much burnt sienna, so I'm going to go back to ultra blue. And now I think we're about there. I may not have the right color yet, but I'm really starting to get into the right value. Oop, lost my image, excuse me. And I'm just going to put some dark through here too. I think there's an island out here, or a bank that comes out into the river. Right here. And I'm running out of product, so I go more blue, just a little bit of burnt sienna. More blue, a little bit of viridian. And let's go over here now. I would have my brush even flatter, but I have my monitor right over to the right of me and I can't get as low as I'd like to be. See, it's compared over here. See how low my hand is to the canvas? It's quite low. But over here I have to raise it, and it's harder to get that much paint off of it. And I'm working on I think a few islands over here. And there's some darks right here. All right, I'm going to add some yellow to this mixture. And that is just not working. So I'm going to go blue, burnt sienna, blue, burnt sienna. And now I'm moving into the green with that. I'm working on the center island, which is a lighter value, and I'm going to put that in right here. And I'm going to add some of that over in these areas too. All right. I'm going to work on the lowest island here, and I'm going to add some Naples to this mixture. and some white. And apply that down in here. That worked out pretty good. And I think I have a few more islands I need to play with and establish. Sorry for my arm over the canvas, but I got to get the bottom of the canvas done. And now I've got, I think, an island coming out here from this guy. And I've got a little island over in here. And another little guy behind him. And I need some lights on these guys here. And I need some lights up here. And there's some lights back in here. All right, let me get back and see how this looks. Not a bad start. All right, so if I have any darks left over, so maybe here on the edge you see, I have some blue and burnt sienna. Let's just make some more blue, burnt sienna. And we're going to put some ideas of where these trees are going to be. I'm going to add some viridian to that mixture. Now we've got some value in here. So I'm just trying to have some rough ideas of where these trees should be. There seems to be a bunch of them right in this one area down there. And that's what that smudgy area is. And I've got just a few minutes left, so let me move the dark off to the side. And let's go. There's a couple mountain ranges back here, so I'm going to make some lighter area on top. That's what the scraping is. And I'm softening my sky edges with my knife, since I have my knife in my hand. And that makes for easier work later. All right, so I've cleaned up my number 4 filbert. I've dried it off. And I'm going to see what I can use in the way of lighter color here. So I've got some sky color and some gray. Mix those together. I'm going to add some blue to it. And we're going to see what this comes out to look like. Oh, that's pretty. I think we're getting the right value. See, there's like a mountain range behind these mountains. I'm adding a little bit of cerulean to this, and white. And you can just see I'm experimenting with various values here to say there's a hill in front, and I think I've successfully done that. And then there's kind of a dark right in. Let me get this dark back. There's a dark, some darks right in here. And I'm going to get some too dark. Too much dark. And then some light. And what I'm going to do with that is just see if I can get some used paint from around here. Add some gray to it and some little bit of red. Boy, that red was so strong on that last one. There we go. I'm going to mix some blue with it. And I'm now going to put in this area that looks like there's A lot of bare rock. It's pretty rough, but this is called block in. It's supposed to be rough. There we go. Not so bad. Lighten it up just a little bit. And I think we're on our way to getting this block in done. Okay, and we did a little bit more than block in. All right, so it's a lot of canvas, for goodness sakes. All right, so let's give this a rest. I'm going to come back tomorrow and start with part 2 of Saskatchewan River. Thank you so much for coming by, and don't forget to get back to judge your painting from back there, not up here. All right. With that, I'm going to say bye-bye.